we're going out there talking to people. A lot of times Christians haven't talked to an atheist before, and so they're like, wait a minute, you're one of them? It's like, yes, we're people. We don't bite.
Oh, I'm gonna die. I'm not your witness, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
Hi, welcome to Atheist Edge. I'm Courtney here with
Kolin Kilpatrick.
There you go. So he's been gracious enough to join us on our recording day. Very nice. So we have a very special episode for you. We have a thank you to one of our viewers, and we wanted to answer a question of theirs.
It's a patron from Conmen Win.
A patron named Conmen Win.
Yes. He asks, discuss self-actualization as it relates to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is it easier or more challenging to resolve the existential crisis you have as an atheist?
Okay.
Oh, side note, he is a Buddhist.
Okay. So I don't think I would agree that atheism per se has an existential crisis, but just to start off, Maslow hierarchy of needs. It's a psychological theory. Maslow is a psychologist, and he created a hierarchy of human needs that we have. And at the bottom, it's like a pyramid. And at the bottom, you have shelter and food and things to sustain you. And then as you get higher up, you have things like creating a legacy and having meaning in your life. And then at the very top, you have self-actualization, which is sort of the highest goal you can have as a human being, to be completely satisfied with your life and have all your needs met and be fulfilled in a major way. And so self-actualization is sort of that. Anything else you'd add to that?
Not really. I think that about sums it up.
So do you think that atheism requires a existential crisis?
So I think that a lot of people will say that atheists are in existential crises because a lot of times they're seeing people in existential crisis as they leave their respected congregations. So I know when I left the church, I kind of had a little bit of an existential crisis, joked around that I was a nihilist, and then looked it up and was like, oh, I'm an existential nihilist. And it's really just like being an existentialist with a negative outlook. So now I'm just an existentialist where it's like, oh, well, my purpose is what I create, and you have to go find the meaning in the world. And I actually think that's a really freeing way to be, because now you can turn inward, and it's way more self-actualizing than saying, well, I'm doing this all for the Lord that I've never met or interacted with.
Well, and I think that if you come from a religious standpoint, even Buddhist standpoint, it makes sense that you would think that we have an existential crisis, because if you come from the standpoint of there being life after death and this sort of like higher meaning and purpose to your life, that's a beautiful idea, but it doesn't necessarily make it true. And I think when you're transitioning out of a religion, not all atheists do that, but if you come from religion and you transition out the way that you and I did, you can go through these kind of existential crises because you're used to having that safety net in your mind of a time after death. However, when you're outside of that mindset, not only do you really get used to it, but you also start to realize that was always the case. You just believed differently, and it's sort of a false hope.
Right.
And then you have the entire thing of more in the Christopher Hitchens camp of a higher power imposing a meaning on your life, imposing an identity onto you, whether or not you like it. So it's almost like a arranged marriage kind of thing, where it's an evil that you're avoiding if you are an atheist, or that you are seeing past if you're an atheist. And here's Jason.
I'd like to jump in real quick because I love this topic. I love to think about this. From my perspective, as you get higher to that self-actualization in your life, as you're able to meet more of those bottom needs, you're able to spend more time at that higher level of getting self-actualization. And I think that's going to happen regardless of whether you are a theist or an atheist or anything. You're going to have more time to reflect on your own life, reflect on your choices, reflect on your beliefs. I just think that maybe if you are an atheist, you may struggle a little more because yes, you don't have that safety net, but I don't think that you are free from it on either side.
Yeah.
Right. And well, and you hear people, they come to their pastors all the time with these crises that they're having, and they say to, put their faith in the Lord. And I think that, especially if we're talking about self-actualization, being able to come up with your own solution is way more fulfilling, and especially on that continuum.
Well,
Yeah.
if you're struggling to get by day to day,
Yeah,
right,
you're probably not thinking about it.
You need someone to give you that mental Band-Aid to help you get through. It's too much to take on an extra. Well, geez, does it even make sense that I'm busting my butt every day just to get by?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and this is something that's also really problematic about the Christian worldview, is some people live their life expecting a time after death, and so they don't make the most of their life here. And they might not have the same aspirations, they might not try to change the world to be better because they don't think that it matters. They think that God has a handle on it, that the world is the way it is because God made it that way. And a big part of my my transition into atheism was realizing that if the world is the way it is because we made it that way, because we're the only ones here to do it, then it's our responsibility to make it better. And we also have the power to make it better because it's only us here. And that was very liberating and empowering, and a very positive message from me. And so atheism to me was very positive, and I didn't experience a crisis. I do think that if you grow up in a more constricted religious space, you might lose a lot of your existential worry because you don't have the threat of hell under your umbrella, or you don't have these constraints of what your life should be and what it should mean and what kind of life you should leave, and what kind of sexual experience you should have and things like that.
Let go so much guilt.
Right, and so there's so much baggage that can come with religious upbringing and religious perspectives that you are able to let go of if you leave religion. And because of that, I think that I think we're less likely to have an existential crisis, because you're not trying to constantly make sense of the things that don't make any sense in the world, of children with cancer. We're not trying to understand what the purpose of that is. There is no fucking purpose to that. And so there are things in the world that don't make any sense, that aren't good, and understanding them as such, and understanding them as things that we don't have to assign a reason or a meaning to, that's a lot better position. It's a lot easier position to hold than trying to make sense of a benevolent God that would allow something like that.
Right. I think there's also something to be said while we're talking about the Maslow's hierarchy. If you also consider the fact that a lot of these people show up to congregations and stuff to find this comfort and this guidance and that kind of thing, it takes more energy than you have to really go. If you're just being beat down into the dirt every day by life, it takes more energy than you have to put forth to posit these more vexing questions and really just sit there and think about it. And sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes you go to dark places in your mind that you have to kind of find your way out of. But I think in the end it's more beneficial because you get to the root of your issues instead of letting God handle it, which doesn't actually solve anything. It's the Band-Aid we were talking about.
Yeah, well, and it is really difficult for people of smaller means, because I do think that the identity of atheism and I do think that it's a privileged position, that some people have such horrible things that they have to deal with in their life that the only way they can make sense of it and the only way that they can get through it is to believe in something that is supernatural. And I completely understand that. And I do think that some people live most of their lives within a religious context, and even if they start to waver later in life, I think that the level of regret, the level of grief they haven't dealt with properly because of religion, it can cause a need for this belief that goes beyond the privilege of being able to deal with the actual truth. And so it isn't lost on me that that the position that I hold has a lot to do with my privilege as a person who grew up in a first world country, and there's just so many things that I was born into that I don't necessarily deserve and didn't earn, but that inform my identity as an atheist. Yeah.
Whew.
It's a lot.
Like, we could really keep peeling that onion back, but I'm trying to be nice today.
Yeah. But it is a good point about Maslow's hierarchy of needs creating more of a crisis, because you do have more space in your mind to deal with it, and that's kind of the point of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is if your needs at the basic level aren't met, your needs of food and shelter and security, if those aren't met, then you're not able to self-actualize. You're not able to move past that need and think about the overarching world. And so we've talked about this today in previous videos of the basic needs being met by newer technologies. That once we can get to a baseline of certain needs being met by our technology and by machines, then we're able to, as a human species, self-actualize as a culture and deal with higher needs, higher arching things. And so because of that, I think that our needs of creating legacy and of making a difference will make us more angsty, I'm sure, because it's going to matter more to us if you're just working 3 jobs and supporting children, and like if you're just go, you're not worried about some of these higher things, and you don't have time for it, and that's totally fine. But as we as a species are able to move away from that basic hustle to something bigger, I think that humanity will be better off. We can deal with these bigger issues of solving larger problems that right now don't seem solvable, because we are in this rut of trying to survive as a species.
And, you know, it kind of brings a point. Existentialism started being a thing when people were exploring the arts and the humanities a lot more. And it's because things were handled and they had time to paint and talk about things like the meaning of what now?
Right.
None of them were calling themselves atheists yet, but I think they were.
You could be philosophy as your career. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like philosophers, thinkers.
Yeah. And, you know, used to be you had to pull a plow. You just had to.
Yeah. And now people stake their whole career on YouTube, right? People make videos, people create entertainment, create informative content, they do research, they inform, they entertain, and so now you can, with a video camera and with a little bit of luck, you can make a career and feed your family on ideas. And I think that's amazing.
Just talking to people about ideas.
Yeah, you can be a quote-unquote philosopher on camera and entertain and educate and make people think, bring people together. There's all kinds of different YouTube content out there, but a lot of people make a living, complete living on content. And so this is a brand new frontier that we're exploring in the modern world, and we wouldn't be able to do that if most of our day had to be dedicated to hunting and gathering or baking bread and doing laundry and household tasks that the modern machines and modern times have created. So I don't think it's a big stretch to say that certain like factory jobs and things will be completely taken over, and then maybe we can discover new talents of people that are locked in a life of being an assembly line person. You know, they might have something more to contribute to the world than just that. So I look forward to that future of people being able to get outside of that rat race.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of cool too, because there's a certain amount of it. It doesn't matter how well you are. We are also kind of standing on the shoulders of giants here.
Absolutely.
So, you know, one machine leads to another. There is a continuum, and I mean, you know, you don't want to topple that over, because we've come a long way, people.
So I think that's a good time to
Wrap
end.
up spot.
Yeah, thank you so much for commenting and for liking and subscribing. We really appreciate it.
This one
sweet,
won't go
yeah.
out for at least another month.
Yeah.
All right.
So where can we find you? What organization are you part of?
Okay, cool. Hey, I'm Kolin Kilpatrick. I'm with the Maverick Secular Society at UTA, University of Texas Arlington. So we are a group for free thinkers, skeptics, atheists, we have all sorts of isms in IST and apostates from all sorts of creeds. We have a Christian that even shows up quite regularly, which is fun. It's just a place for all of the aforementioned to come, hang out, have weird conversations, talk about topics that sometimes like maybe religion would answer, but now we have to think about on our own, kind of like this very subject. But sometimes just modern events, that kind of stuff. We're part of the Secular Student Alliance, and in fact, you used to be the president of the group that was there before us, and then they kind of
I
went
wasn't
away
president.
And came back. You weren't. I thought that you were the president.
No.
Okay.
Well, I was a member of Free Thinkers of UTA, and then now they've become a new group with Charlie, our fearless leader. And so I miss being a student. I'm kind of an honorary member of them because I love them so much. But
You should come to some of our meetings.
yeah, and what I really loved about the UTA Freethinker group was that it created a sense of community, but it also created education for me of creating these roundtable discussions about topics that I didn't know about. I learned the difference between atheism and agnosticism, and I learned about Christopher Hitchens too. Like I learned about all these authors because of my time there. And then we also did events like Stone the Heathen, which educates the rest of the campus on what we do as well.
We didn't do Stone a Heathen this year because people started getting kind of, oh, it's not going to be fun. People are going to get upset. So we decided, all right, we're not trying to ruffle feathers because a lot of what we do is we're going out there talking to people. A lot of times Christians haven't talked to an atheist before, and so they're like, wait a minute, you're one of them? It's like, yes, we're people. We don't bite.
Yeah. I love that. I love that time when a woman came up to me after an Ask an Atheist event panel, and she was like, "I never would have thought you'd be one of the atheists," because I'm young and female and nice. It's just like they don't think that's what atheism is.
Yeah. Okay, so this March we're going to be having a little convention over spring break, and we're trying to get a bunch of secular student alliances from all over North Texas to come to UTA, and we're just going to be in one of the main student centers and trying to get a bunch of people. I've been talking to some notable faces that might be able to come and give some little talks, and Atheist Edge is going to be there. They're going to have a table. We're also going to have, I think, the Satanic Temple and the Crossroads Society. Of course, the Metroplex Atheist, our big sisters.
Yeah.
And so like just all sorts of stuff, and it's just kind of a way to be a little more active in a local area here in North Texas, so that we don't all have to go to Austin because sometimes we just can't. And try to get more stuff going on in more places so that more people can see us.
And Charlie actually reinvigorated the group at UTA, so we have a lot to thank from her for kind of resurrecting, if you'd like to say that word, the atheist groups at UTA. And she is our new secretary of Metroplex Atheists, so she's joining our board, and we're all kind of connected here.
Yeah, we're a little sad. We're going to lose Charlie, Madam President.
So how can they find the group?
We have social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's Maverick Secular Society, at Maverick Secular Society. And find us and drop us a like. And
also comment on this video what you think about whether atheism has an existential crisis tied to it. I know a lot of people do think that. And just give us what you think, because this conversation doesn't end here.